Well, good evening, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and I hope this finds you well as spring is bursting around us. And first things first, I have to thank Hamish and Carol certainly belatedly, who made a donation to my channel in January, and Hamish recently. Thank you so much. And this is quite timely because you know what? My camera just conked out and I had to order a new one, and so I'm back on my old camera. I don't know if the quality has dropped off, but anyways, I'm on my backup and the new one should be arriving in the next week or so. So inflation and the effect on how people are going to react. Now, this is an article about a speech that Rob Capito gave in Texas recently, and it was about the fact that we are about to see inflation that this country has never seen before, and he's talking North America, actually worldwide, and the effect is going to be absolutely staggering. Now, I came across this little video, this little clip, which I'm going to play for you in a second. Now, I don't know whether it is a spoof or whether it is the real thing, but if it's a spoof, it has to be relatable. Like, people don't laugh at things if they can't relate to the humor that's being displayed. And this young lady, I think it's real. But this is the level that we have lowered ourselves to. Universities have safe spaces, and people are offended at microaggressions and this kind of stuff. You are not going to make it through a rough period if you are offended at everything. If everything upsets you and you're going to cry about it, wow, it's going to be a shock to the system. Anyway, take a look at this little clip. It's kind of funny. I hope you like it. I thought it was just hilarious. Here we go.
So I keep getting crickets in my house. I don't know why. I've never had a cricket problem before, but I looked it up, and apparently it's really bad luck to kick them out of your house. Like, you're not supposed to kick them out of your house, but like, what am I supposed to do? Like, let you stay here? Now there's like 36 crickets running around because I did kick out one, and let me tell you, I had a really horrible week after that. And now they're just running around. And I'm like, please move. I just want to make a piece of toast and you're in my way. And I open a cabinet and it's just like, oh, hey, cricket that I can't kick out of my house. Can you please just leave? I don't want to kick you out. I just want to ask you nicely to leave. My house is just infested with crickets. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yes, so there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Crickets are overwhelming. But I see this all over the place. People who are unable to cope with the least little bit of adversity. And I'm not just talking about younger people my age. I remember sitting at the round table in a restaurant we all used to go to, and there was a counsellor who used to sit at that table. And I would try and talk to her about money issues and how we could resolve things and debt and so on and so forth. And she would poo-poo me and, oh, you're just a doom and gloomer, and, why don't you look on the bright side, and why do you always have to talk about this kind of stuff? And, of course, here we are, up to our necks in it, because we won't talk about it. And it's, I used to say to these people, and I saw them person after person in the store would react the same way when you started talking about, some of the more complex issues in our society and how we might resolve them. I ended up saying to them, well, look, if you're driving a car, imagine you're driving a car down the road, okay? Everything's fine. You come to a bend in the road. What do? Just like close your eyes and swerve into a ditch? Is that how it works? Or do you keep your eyes open, both hands on the wheel, watch what's happening, and navigate around that corner? Huh? Yeah, keep your eyes open and navigate around the corner. No wonder people are running for safe spaces if you can't keep your eyes open and navigate the road ahead. Of course it's going to be scary. I'd be damn scared if I closed my eyes and took my hands off the steering wheel of the car whilst I was driving. Who wouldn't be? But, can you not see the cause and effect relationship here? The very fact that you close your eyes and let go of the steering wheel is actually the most dangerous part. You could have just steered around that corner 100 times quite safely. But because you panicked, because you got all freaked out. You came off the road. This is what is going to make the situation so much worse. It's people who have become so dependent on the system. And again, this is one of the funny little ironies. I was talking to a friend today because one of the things I do find fascinating is the sort of anthropological, sociological side of all of this. And to think about, all the people today, the young people who want to defund the police, who want to upset all of the systems in society. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of change to be made. There's room for change everywhere. But the people who are trying to kick out the legs from underneath these systems are the very people who depend almost entirely on the support systems that the system provides for making it through everyday life. I mean, if you're flying a rainbow flag and you think that's all there is to making this world run, I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. Math is not racist, okay, and neither is rigor. So we need these things. Things have to work. If there's no rigor, then there is no telephones. There's no wireless system. There is no computer. There's no technology, because you need rigor. If you type in one wrong thing on a computer in a program, it ain't going to work. So these people are so dependent on the system, and they are not prepared to see their cost of living double or possibly triple in the next 2 or 3 months. Okay, so let's just pop over to this article and we'll come back and I'll do a quick wrap up. Okie dokie, here we go. And this from RT, entitled Generation warned of food shortages and inflation. The president of a multi-trillion-dollar asset fund has told US citizens to expect a drop in living standards. BlackRock President Rob Capito told oil and gas executives on Tuesday that entitled Americans are about to deal with shortages of food and other goods and should prepare accordingly. BlackRock, which manages $10 trillion in assets, has been accused of making home ownership unaffordable for millions of citizens. For the first time, this generation is going to go into a store and not be able to get what they want, Capito told the meeting of the Texas Owners Association. And we have a very entitled generation that has never had to sacrifice. I would put on your seatbelts because this is something that we haven't seen, Capito added, warning that Americans will soon face scarcity inflation, or rising prices compounded by shortages of everything from food and consumer goods to oil and gas. The Biden administration has blamed spiraling inflation on Russia's military offensive in Ukraine, with White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield referring on Tuesday to Putin's price hike, and Biden himself said earlier this month that there will be costs at home as we impose crippling sanctions on Russia. However, inflation in the US had hit a 40-year high weeks before hostilities erupted in Ukraine, and Biden's opponents have warned since last year that his policies, which involved spending more in his first 8 months than former President Donald Trump did in 2018 and 19 combined, and throttling domestic energy production, would trigger price spikes for ordinary Americans. BlackRock, however, has added trillions of dollars to its portfolio in recent years. The firm managed around $1.3 trillion in assets at the time of the last financial crisis, which soared to $8.68 trillion in January 2021 and passed the $10 trillion mark this January. Absolutely unbelievable. This is so staggering. And I just found out, just as a little add-on here, that these international hedge funds and banks are forcing Ukraine to make loan payments during this crisis. Unbelievable. Talk about vulture capitalism. BlackRock's top executives have been rewarded by the Biden administration too, and have helped shape its economic policies. Brian Dees served as the global head of sustainable investing at BlackRock and now directs the National Economic Council. Wally Ademo is a former senior advisor at BlackRock and now serves as Deputy Secretary at the Treasury Department. Mark Pyle used to be an investment strategist at BlackRock and now serves as Vice President Kamala Harris's Chief Economic Advisor. Whoa, nothing to see here. Talk about a revolving door. This is the problem, folks. This is the problem right here. The firm has grabbed headlines in recent years for buying up properties throughout the US and turning them over to the rental market. Although the UN has criticised BlackRock's former owner, Blackstone, for wreaking havoc with tenants' right to security and contributing to the global housing crisis, BlackRock has been hired by the US government to buy up mortgages on its behalf, bringing even more properties under its management. Americans are expected to bear the brunt of the inflation Capito warned about in the immediate term. According to estimates published by Bloomberg on Tuesday, the average US household will have to spend an extra $5,200 this year for the same basket of consumer goods. Wages are unlikely to rise to compensate for this expenditure, Bloomberg predicted, due to more Americans entering the labor force. Well, we'll see how that works out. So now this is such an involved subject, I'm going to have to make two videos because there is a whole thing going on in Europe. They are seeing that they're getting the brunt of the inflation right now, and I want to do a piece about that and show you some of the things that are going on over there. But, you know, we can see that the situation between Russia and Ukraine, whether it was orchestrated or not, whether, you know, we really don't know 100% for sure what's going on in those countries. But we do know, take a look, this is Klaus Schwab here, telling you that there are going to be distinct shortages of food, energy, and breakdowns in supply mechanisms. Okay, here we go.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to participate for the 8th time at this important meeting, even if only in a virtual way. I would like to express my high respect to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for having taken the initiative for creating such an important global platform for governments shaping the future. I also want to congratulate Dubai for having organized such a successful World Expo despite all the repercussions of the global pandemic. Last November, in partnership with His Excellency Mohammed Al-Gargawi, we brought together 60 top intellectual thinkers here in Dubai. Thank you to His Excellency for enabling this initiative to define a longer-term narrative to make the world more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable. With all the current issues on our agenda, we tend to forget that we are in the midst of the 4th Industrial Revolution, which accelerates global change in much more comprehensive and faster ways than the previous 3 revolutions. I'm proud that the government of Dubai has been so foresighted in establishing a Center for the 4th Industrial Revolution in cooperation with the World Economic Forum. The objective is to quickly recognize the potential of new technologies as well as develop the necessary ethical and political frameworks around those new technologies to ensure that those technologies are human-centered and society-oriented. The world has to overcome not only the damage done to our economies and our societies by COVID-19, it also has to confront the repercussions of a dangerous clash between major global powers. History is truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected. In times of crisis, the role of governments is more important and more relevant than ever. What is also needed is a summit like this one to go beyond crisis management and to look into constructive ways we can build our common future. Our futures are intrinsically connected to one another, as the profound challenges to mankind, such as climate change, are globally interconnected and require collaborative responses. In conclusion, and despite all the challenges, we have to uphold our responsibility, which we have towards the next generation, and which we can only fulfill through collaboration on a national and on a global level. I wish you an impactful and successful meeting.
So there you go, right from the horse's mouth. And if you don't think that these things are going to have a direct effect at ground level, and a lot of the things they're talking about, some of the things they talked about in that article are misleading, because it's not just a matter of wages keeping pace with inflation as far as the cost of living is concerned. If you commute any distance to work, and there's a lot of people with in the era of efficient vehicles and cheap gasoline, have moved out into rural areas to find cheaper properties to raise their family in, and the cost saving in housing allows them to commute backwards and forwards an hour to an hour and a half. Well, if your fuel costs just doubled or tripled, let me tell you, that is a chunk out of your budget. And what about all the municipalities whose fuel costs doubled for all of that equipment they run? What about all their employees now, and the unions will be putting pressures on their employees to keep up with that cost of living allowance? Oh, this is going to be a very, very, very tenuous year, and there's going to be a lot of shocked and scared people when for the first time in their lives, and it's not just one generation, this has been going on for a long time. For the first time, these people are going to hear the word no. And it really does. No means no. You will not have the disposable income to go out for dinner, to buy those little extras, to go on vacation. You are going to see austerity. The austerity that was predicted back in 2008 will seem like a cakewalk to the austerity that we are going to feel. Self-imposed austerity. And as he said, we are seeing supply line inflation, scarcity inflation, but we're seeing money inflation too at the same time. So we've got this double whammy. Both kinds of inflation happening at the same time in an era where wages cannot keep up at that kind of pace. And even if you get a universal basic income, it will not be able to keep up. And again, this is the deadly trap of accepting that, because they will give you $2,000 a month. Pensioners think it's great because they're only getting $1,400 a month right now in their pension. But when they realize that all of a sudden, they can't heat their house for the $2,000 a month, let alone buy food, put gas in the car, and pay for insurance and all the rest of that kind of stuff, you're going to see what a sucker deal it was. And that's the plan. And so when you're in that situation, and this is what's happening in China right now, okay, they've cheated in the system, and they forced you to come up with a cheating strategy to be able to survive. And if you're using a cheating strategy with a digital identification system or a social credit system, you are running the risk that you're going to get caught and imprisoned and shipped off to some organ factory. Think about that. These things happen. What do you think's going on in China? Why do you think we're talking about this stuff? The Uyghurs, ask the Uyghurs how they're doing in China in organ transplants. Yeah, think about that. Deadly trap. Deadly trap. So the banks have created the inflation. The governments have created the inflation. And as I said in the video, these international banks who are decrying the violence in Ukraine are holding Ukraine's feet to the fire and issuing more loans with unbelievable strings attached. Ukraine will be in the bag of the IMF forever. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe below. Please share far and wide. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. You take care now. See ya. Bye.